Hi, my name's Bryan. This is my wife, Jayne. We've been a part of Mercy Hill since it was planted about 10 years ago, and this is our adoption story.
We met in the summer of 2001 when we were both camp counselors, and we got married in 2004. We moved to North Carolina and spent some years intentionally growing our marriage before moving back to Northwest Indiana, and then we decided to grow our family.
After about a year of trying to grow our family, we sought out some help for infertility, and that was a really rough time for us, just feeling discouraged and just kind of helpless, hopeless. And we found that in that time, it was really hard to, but we decided we would really just be open and share what was going on with our life share group, with our church. God really encouraged us through those around us, praying for us, encouraging us, and just listening to us. It was just really, really good. And as we prayed, as we sought other people's prayers, we found God leading us towards adoption.
As we started learning about adoption, we felt the Lord calling us to domestic infant adoption, which is where an expectant mom chooses an adoption plan and chooses the adoptive parents for her child. Most of those are open adoptions, which means that there's a relationship built there and communication of some level, which was really scary for us at first to think about that. But as we learned more, as we read different books, we realized that there could really be an avenue for healing. We saw God's heart for these brave moms who choose to make an adoption plan. And we decided that that was something we really wanted. So the Lord took us from being really scared of it to really desiring that relationship and that openness. So paperwork took us about 5 months, and then we waited about 5 months, and then we were backpacking in Colorado, and we turned our phones back on, and we had all sorts of messages saying that the expectant mom who we had met with had the baby and decided to make an adoption plan with us. So that was Tuesday, and Wednesday we flew home. Thursday we drove out to Ohio to meet with her, and Friday we signed paperwork, and we're parents.
Our first adoption was actually pretty quick, about 10 months in total. Our second adoption was completely different. We ended up waiting about 3 years, and so we did our paperwork, and ended up waiting a year and a half and not hearing anything. It was like radio silence. And then after that, we found out that expectant mom and dad were interested in us, and so we ended up meeting with them several times. They met Adriana. We were super excited. We were like, yes, it's gonna be a little boy. And about 2 weeks before when she was due, she decided that she was going to parent, and that was heartbreaking for us. It was hard. We basically grieved for him like someone had died. It was hard for us. We grieved, and then it was even harder to watch Adriana grieve in that time. It was really heartbreaking. And so the failed match led us to an adoption consultant who works with multiple agencies, and that ultimately ended up leading us to Jacqueline.
We found out just before Christmas that an expectant mom was interested in us. But through that time of waiting until we got to that point, our community really surrounded us, especially as we grieved for that failed match. There were times that we felt forgotten, that no one was interested in us as parents, that maybe that there wasn't another child for us, and a community really helped remind us that we weren't forgotten and point us back to God in that time. One quote that I really like that helped me in this time was, God is too good to be unkind, and he is too wise to be mistaken. When we cannot trace his hand, we must trust his heart. We couldn't always see what he was doing. We didn't even know he was working, but trusting him that he had another child for us.
So we had heard that Jacqueline's birth mom was interested in us, and we talked to her on the phone, and then we made plans to fly down and visit with her in early February. And at the end of January, we were home on a Sunday, and we got a phone call, and they said, she's here. We dropped Adriana off at the grandparents, and we flew down to Florida the very next morning, and we met Jacqueline in the NICU. She was 8 weeks early, but she was doing great. We were so excited.
So Jacqueline spent the next 6 weeks in the NICU, and I was down there the whole time with her in Florida, and we had some family and a friend from church, Jocelyn, come down and visit to support me and meet Jacqueline. And when the church heard that I was down in Florida, they sent some gifts, things for me to do, some privy clothes for Jacqueline, which she needed, and blessed us with meals when we came back too, which was really awesome. Really just felt loved and supported by the community.
So with the addition of Jacqueline to our family, we felt like God speaking to us that he had formed our family and it was complete. And so as we moved forward and the girls got older, we kept learning, and that's something they really encouraged us to keep learning about adoption. And as we kind of learned about it and as we were parenting our girls, we realized that there's some other layers that adoption brings to parenting, trauma being one of those big pieces, that even our girls who were adopted at birth, that they still have some trauma. We were kind of praying about that and the experience we've had, learning that we did, and then even just the adoption community that we're a part of kind of led us to what's called trust-based parenting. That was a really big step for us because I felt like God really led us to that, and we feel like that was really helpful for the girls. We saw such a change in Adriana when we kind of shifted gears and went down a different way of parenting, and it was really helpful for her. That trust-based parenting piece led us to a group called Love Moves Us, which is a group all about adoption support, encouraging one another as we try to parent our children in love and grace. And so it's just been such a blessing to us to be a part of Love Moves Us and to have that support, to be able to realize we're not crazy sometimes. But it's just been so helpful for us. As we think about the future, we're hopeful and we're praying for good relationships with their birth families, and that they would be healthy girls in their emotions. They would be close to God and follow Him. They would be confident in who they are, in their identity, confident in their belonging to this family, and confident in who they are as they branch out from this family, as they grow up. That they would be confident in who God's made them to be. Even with the adoption piece.
If you're a family who's considering adoption, pursuing that, I just encourage you to pray with an open heart to see where God is leading you. Don't be scared of where He might take you and your family. And also just know that God will form your family and that someone else won't get your child, and you won't get somebody else's child. God will lead you to the exact child that He has for you.
When we're saved, God brings us into His family, and He does that intentionally. I believe that He desires for us to walk in community with our brothers and sisters. And throughout our story, we saw how God used that community to encourage us, to point us to Him. And if we're not in community, we're really missing out on, I feel like really missing out on God and what He has for us.